Right, okay.
Yeah, most people just take them out.
Okay.
They're not working again.
Okay. Talked about last night. Yavai Hamelech v'Haman hayom el Mishta Hashem Sisi Lai. The king and Haman should come to a party today, which I have made for him. So we mentioned the Gemara asks, what did Esther have in mind in inviting Haman to a party? So one of the 11 reasons the Gemara gives is like this. Esther understood a Rosha can't come tumbling down till he reaches his peak. He's got to reach the peak where he can't go any higher, then he comes tumbling down. So she worked out, Esther Cheshbon, there's only one more kibbutz which Haman can get. He's got tremendous wealth. He's the number 2. There's only one more honour you can give him. It's a bit like if you got a knighthood. You know, what more can you give a guy? And that was a private audience with the queen, the king and queen. What else could they give? There's no greater kibbutz could be handed out. Another question was she wanted to make Achashverosh suspicious. Something's going on between her and Haman, and of course Achashverosh was always watching his back. So I remember a story. I ate at my Uncle Gerald's once in the old city, and he had that very interesting coffee. There's always about 5 or 6 interesting guests besides himself there. And he had, very interesting, it was a middle-aged couple who had to wait about 20 odd years for kids. And if you saw the guy, he looked like a Rosh Hashiva. Long beard, a frack and everything. He was actually a doctor. And he said he'd gone to daven in the Morris Machpelah for children, and when he was blessed, they were blessed with after about 25 years, 23 years. I think they had twin boys, or a boy and a girl. They had twins. So he did the bris in the Morris Machpelah. Very, very fascinating story. And then he went to wash and he took his frack off, and he had a gun down the back of him. So he saw, a bit strange. So he said to me, when you go through the Arab Shuk, he said, you got to watch your back. He said, you got to watch yourself. He said, and you can't take any chances. So he, even on Shabbos, he had it on him. Whether he wasn't just a doctor, it could be, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't just a doctor. Certainly didn't look like one, but he looked more like a Rosh Hashiva. But it was to arouse Achashverosh was always nervous of an assassination attempt. So one of the cheshbonos were that she keeps on inviting Haman. It looks like they're plotting against him, and he would either say kill both of them, or there were cheshbonos here. There were cheshbonos. We'll see how the second invitation it worked. That's when Achashverosh began to get very suspicious. We'll see why in a minute. Okay, Haman. Quickly go and call Haman. Last night says to my Esther to do what Esther wants. So they came to the party which Esther had made, and probably a bit unusual for a queen to do her own cooking. But of course, she had a problem with kashrus, so it makes sense that she made it. Literally, she had made it. In fact, it actually says in the previous passage, she even said to the king, "I've already made it. It's all ready." Again, she was preempting it because had she not made it, then probably Achashverosh would have sent orders out to get it made. So again, it was all ready, and along they come. So Vayem HaMelech LaEsther b'mishtei hayayin.
Shmuel said, "Marul, you want to eat this hot because Hashem was sissy. You want this hot."
Want it fresh. Vayem HaMelech LaEsther b'mishtei hayayin. So as they're drinking there, now Rashi says something interesting. Why is the Suda called a Mishteh? Why do you call it a Mishteh? Rashi says something very interesting.
There's no such thing as a Mishteh as a meal without wine.
Oh. So Rashi says, Kol Suda Nikres Al Shem Hayayin Shehu Ikka. So I wondered if it wasn't a Mishteh, a feast or a banquet. It was like cocktails, or a bit like a bit kiddish. So where the main thing was the drinking, there was very posh wines there, and there was like food with it. Sometimes you go to very posh functions beforehand. They walk around
Cocktail
with
hour.
what?
Cocktail hour.
Cocktail, yeah. What's it called?
Cocktail hour.
Right, cocktail hour. And you dip a sausage in mustard, And it's like thinking, and the main thing is the drinks. Could be. The main thing here was the drink. Okay. So now he says again, so again he makes this incredible offer to Esther because he realizes if she risked her life to come, it must be something very big. So it's either for her, what's your request for yourself, or it's something big for somebody else, and therefore again he makes this big offer. Now Esther's got a problem now. She can't really hide any longer because he's first time she said, will you please come to the party? Right, they come to the party. He asks her again, no Esther, what do you want? So Esther's now going to play for time. What's she doing now? Now don't forget, she's wearing Ruach HaKodesh, which means she's got laser-guided vision or laser-guided thoughts, and she's looking and looking and looking. Now you have to understand something. Tzaddikim like Mordechai and Esther, great tzaddikim, it's not just they give out brachas free of charge and all these things like that. They've got to get a heritage that Kodesh Baruch was masking to it. Now we don't get that heritage because we're not so in tune with the Ratzon Hashem. But they who very, very much, their whole lives is tailored into Ratzon Hashem, so they get a heritage whether Kodesh Baruch is okay with it or not. So you see Esther now she's playing for time. So he says, Matan Esther Vatoima. So she sort of takes a deep breath and she says to the king, She'elossi ubakoshossi. She sort of says, yeah, I've got a personal request and I've got a request for others. And then she doesn't say what it is. She says, Imotsossi chen be'inei hamelech. If I found favor in your eyes, ve'im al hamelech toiv, and if the king really is okay with it, if you really, really want to do what I want, what I'm asking for, now, she does it again. Yavoi, Hamelech, v'Haman, el hamishter, the party, look at the words now, asher e'eseh lahem, which I will make for them. See, this is asher sisi lo, the first one, for him. So she now equates Haman to the king. She gives him the same chashivas for the two of you, the two of them. Umacha, and tomorrow, Rashi says, I'll tell you who I am and where I'm from, which you've been asking me all these years. Now, the Ebenezer asks, why did she not go for it? He said to Esther, what do you want? Why didn't she go for it now, there and then?
Create suspense.
Well, you could say that. So I'll read out the Ebenezer, unbelievable piece of Ebenezer. And he says like this, Ulefidati, according to my understanding, She'ichra Esther ledaber b'yom harishon b'mishta hayayin. She didn't go for it at the first party. Ba'avur shelo ra'asa shum ois. She couldn't see any sign. Shechidesh Hashem ba'avur tanis Yisrael. She couldn't see any response from Shomayim. The guys are fasting. It was day 3 already of the tanis. This is serious teshuvah, serious tefillah, serious tzedakah, no doubt. And nothing. She can't see anything. Nothing's happened. Which means time's not right yet. Because God's not giving her a sign. He said, now. So therefore she pushed it off another day. The next day she had a wonderful sign. Haman had taken Mordechai around town on the horse. So she saw Haman's beginning to tumble. So then she went for it. That was the Ois Min Hashemayim. But on day 1, she couldn't find anything. So that's why she was hesitating. What is it? Can I see any indication? No indication. So she pushed it off another day. And now she ups Haman one final level. Okay. Now it doesn't say that the king said, yeah, okay, obviously he did, because they came the next day. But the first time, when she offers the party, he said, quick, go and get Haman for the party. Here, the king doesn't seem to respond, but by not saying no, obviously she took it as a yes. Seems to me he didn't disagree with it, so he said, okay, gives her the nod. Vayetze Haman bayom hahu sameach v'toiv leib. Haman went out, happy, and as the Americans say, feeling good. He felt good with himself. Yeah, the Americans always talk about it. I was feeling good with myself. Yeah? And he walks out on a high. Well, Chirois, Haman is Mordechai b'Shah HaMelech. He then notices Mordechai there at the gate. Now, earlier it says Mordechai didn't bow down to him. Very interesting this. And although everybody else was, so Mordechai said very clearly, I'm Jewish and we don't do these things. So, but he said Mordechai did stand up for him. Very interesting. Did stand up out of respect for the minister of the king, but he won't bow down because he's Avodah Zarah. This time, Mordechai had permission to sit there. He didn't even get up. So this really now gets Haman. He says, come. He didn't get up. He didn't even move. Mimenu. Vayimole Haman Amod Chachema. He got filled with anger, but he's not showing it. Quite amazing. Vayisapak Haman. He held himself in and didn't say a word. Now come on, Haman was no tzaddik. Haman, if he got angry with anybody, he would just let fly. How on earth did Haman hold himself together? How did he do it? He went home. We're coming back to this in a minute. He called his friends, Zeresh Ishto and Zeresh's wife. Rabbi Kubis used to say, it seems to be Zeresh wasn't Oyavov. His wife. He splits them up. That's what he always used to say. Now, so the Kedushas Levi asked this kasha, how come, how could Haman have such a edel midas, yeah? He held himself in, kept quiet. So he says an amazing thing. He says, we know Esther came from a family of people who had the midah of Shesika. She kept quiet, didn't say where she came from, and she was from Sholom, kept quiet, from Binyamin, from Rachel. This midah was in the family. Says if you come close to a tzaddik, in close proximity to a tzaddik, the middas of that tzaddik rub off onto you. You get inspired by the middah, the strong middas of that tzaddik. I'm sure anyone's been to Karastir, you came out and the first thing you wanted to do was do some Akos Zorichin probably, or find someone to do a chesed to. Because it's there, it's like tangible in the air. That was his big avodah, that was his outstanding middah, it rubs off onto you. So he said, Haman had just been in a room with Esther. First time, he'd never met the queen that close before. He'd just been in a private banqueting suite with the king and queen, with Esther. So Esther's midah of Shesika rubbed off onto him. Unbelievable. It rubbed off onto him, and it worked. He kept quiet. He kept it all bottled in. Because when you come close to a Gava Rabbah, someone very great, someone very special, you're inspired just by being there, just by watching his anhogas, you get inspired, and it rubbed off onto Haman. Now, I'll tell you a very funny story about this. In Gezer Tzem, I think in year 2 or year 3, they have to take a character from Tanakh and write a whole PhD about that character. So it's really homework for the fathers, because the girls all phone home and ask the dad for help. That's how it works. So my daughter phoned me up, and she said, Daddy, who should I choose? Who should I choose? So I said, Michal, do you want to become famous in the history of Gezer Tzem? So she said, what do you mean? So I said, you know what? Choose Haman. No one has ever written a character study on Haman. She said, no, Daddy, I can't. I said, Michal, just listen to me. Do Haman, I'll help you out with it, and you'll see, yours will be noticed, because no one's ever done Haman before. I assure you no one's done Haman. Alright, she agreed to do Haman. So I had to answer about 7 questions. Where was he from, and his background, and all these things. Then one of the questions were, what good things can we learn from your character? So what's he going to write? What can we learn about Haman? So I said to her, right, you've got 2 very good things to learn from Haman. Number 1, he never gave up. Even when everything came tumbling down and his family all said, back off. You can see Mordechai is you're going to get it. No, just bad day at the office. Coffee had no sugar in this morning. Something like that. Yeah, he macked it. He didn't give up till the bitter end. He won't give up. So that's one lesson you can learn from him. I said the other one is about his hapak. He had good business, well, to an extent. Yeah, he bottled it all in. So she wrote it down and she handed it in. And they have like a supervisor. Each bit as they do it, they read it. Anyway, so the supervisor read this shtickle and said, where does it say such a thing about Haman? Esther's middas rubbed off onto her.
Don't mess with that.
So she posed me back. So I said, go on, tell her, so the Kedushas Levi on Megillas Esther. The woman, she went home, asked her husband to find the Kedushas Levi. They looked it up, and she came back to my daughter and said, you're right. My husband said, you're right. We take a little more. Got him a cut. Alright, okay, but anyway, so So she in the history of Gates she went down as famous. Now, I used to ask the boys in school, very funny thing, if you could choose 3 people in Tanakh, who you'd like to meet, who would you like to meet? So me personally, I'd love to meet Avraham Avinu. I'd love to meet David HaMelech, and especially Eliyahu At last, to meet Eliyahu So we went on the table, and one Heverman said, I want to meet Laban, Parai, and Haman. Some people think out of the box. They want to see all the Heverman, so to speak, in Tanakh. Okay, so Haman holds it all in. Now, this is a psychological thing. The Mephoshim points out, if you're on a high, if you're riding a wave of happiness and success, and something pricks your heart, something hurts you, it can be psychologically damaging. The contrast of going from such happiness to such anger can actually cause a lot of emotional pain or damage. So that what you're supposed to do is do things which cheer you up. I mean, you want to sort of restore your happy emotions. It says Samech B'Tov Lev. He was feeling good. He was feeling good about it. So what did Haman do? It's exactly what he did. So he calls his family, Vayisapelem Haman es Kavoid Oshrei. Not just his wealth, the honor he gets out of his wealth. Right? The fact is, people respect wealthy people. Why? Because they think they're clever. They did a clever deal, pulled a clever stick, they read the market, and everything. And people think, I assume are clever. When everything collapses and they lose it all, that's the embarrassment. Because now everyone realizes it was a shmoiki, he had a muzzle, with a shaman, he did a deal, and now it was taken away from him, whatever. So there's a cover attached to Ashira. So the mindset goes with it, whether everyone's running after you day and night. It's yes, Mr. Gradle, no, Mr. Gradle. It's well, yes, Tuvia, no Tuvia, Rum Tuvia. Yeah, you get your titles with the Ashira, but there's a big cover attached to it. V'roiv Bonov, Chazal had a massive family. And then he says, and look what I've achieved in life. Es kol asher gidlei HaMelech, how the king made him bigger than any other minister. Ve'es asher nisoi al asorim v'avdei HaMelech, he was the number 2. There was no one above him besides the king. And then he says something very interesting. He said, and there's one more honor, one more thing which I have achieved. Vayomer Haman, af lo hevia Esther HaMalka im HaMelech el HaMishte asher osasa ki im oisi. She only invited me, not even that Mordechai she didn't invite. Only me. And not only that, I've got a second invitation. Now, there's an amazing chazal here. We, unfortunately, are very free and easy with words, the way we speak. But chazal say, words are very powerful. If a person wants to speak about something, you should never say I or you. Always speak in the person. You should never direct things at people. And certainly not yourself. So Chazal points out there's 4 people in Tanakh began a sentence with the word af. And all 4 collapsed. Now the word af means also or indeed, but we know the word af means anger. Af Hashem, yeah? Which means it was a symbol, a sign of the Midas Hadin. So who were these 4? The first one was the Nachash. Nachash says to Chava, Af ki amai lekim, did Hashem really say you can't eat from this tree? And look what happened to the Nachash. The next one was the Saha Oifim, the butler, with Yosef. He hears the baker. The butler gets a good interpretation from Yosef. And he goes, Af ani b'chaloim, I also saw in my dream. And look what happened to him. The next one was Dosan Avira. He said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he said, you took us out of Eretz Mitzrayim, and after you haven't brought us to a land flowing milk and honey. And a few minutes later, they were down in the pit. And the 4th one was Haman. So although Haman didn't know what he was saying, he was saying af, and Mordechai's attaching it Lashon HaKodesh. But Mordechai, the Kisra HaKodesh are telling us that the Midas Hadin started to descend upon them for the punishment they got from this word af, when that word began. Okay, so, and then he says like this, so he's gone through everything he's achieved, his wealth, and his position, and his honor, and everything. And then he says like this, the most amazing possible. V'chol ze einenu shoiveli, but it's not worth tuppence halfpenny. If anyone knows what that means. V'chol eis asher ani royes Mordechai HaYehudi Yoshev b'shah melech. When I see that Mordechai the Jew, doesn't mean anything to me. So Rashi brings the Chazal. Mordechai used to lift his foot up, and on the sole of his shoe, it had I Haman sell myself as a slave to Mordechai in view of the food, the provisions he gave him many years earlier when there were officers in Achashverosh's army. So we know Masha Kana Eved, Kana Rabba, whatever Eved's got, doesn't matter what he's got, it all belongs to his Rebbe. So he said, nothing, it's not worth anything to me as long as Mordechai the Jew is around. So now, there's an amazing Chazal. Amazing Chazal. I never fully understood it until this year. I think I understand it. The Gemara says, Haman min HaTorah minai. Where's the remez for Haman in the Torah? Everything in Tanakh has got a remez in the Torah to it. So the Gemara says, Otam Marishan in Gan Eden, there's a remez there for Haman. After he ate from the tree, Hashem said to him, Hamin ha'etz asher tzivisicha levilti achol melchata. Did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from? So I always thought the word Hamin is the same letters as Haman. Hamin, yeah? Is it from the tree I told you not to? So no, it doesn't mean that. The Gemara is asking, where do you get a concept like Haman? You've got everything in the world, everything going for you. Just one thing is missing, and that ruins everything. Where do you find that? So the Gemara says, Otam Marishan in Gan Eden, he had the whole world, he owned every inch of property, every inch of real estate, and planet Earth he owned. What didn't he own, Ramadcha? One tree. He couldn't have the and even that tree, had he waited till Friday night, he would have had it, he would have been allowed to eat it. One tree is not allowed to eat, and that spoiled the whole show, it ruined everything. So what's the connection? The comparison is beautiful. Why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu leave one tree he's not allowed to eat? What's the reason? To remind him, it's not your world, it's my world, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says. So you can have the whole world, you can use the whole world, but don't forget, it's not yours. And the reminder is that one tree. And that, all originally couldn't handle it, and it spoiled everything for him. Same thing with Haman. He had every single thing. But the one thing remained, reminded him, none of it was his. That other original, the one tree, which he couldn't eat from, reminded him, planet Earth is not yours, it belongs to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Here as well, that's exactly the same thing you find with Haman. He had absolutely everything, but the one thing which ruined everything was the presence of Mordechai, which really negated everything which he had. So they came up with an idea. Again, it says Zeresh's wife and all his friends. Says it again. They should make, it didn't say you should make it, it said they should make for you a piece of wood 50 amas high. Now, what's the significance of 50 amas?
Teva.
So the question is, where did he get it from? So one opinion, Chazal, it came from Nerch's Teva. Haman's, one of his sons was the governor in the area of Ararat in Turkey, where the table was still there. They got a piece from there. Now it's very interesting this, because if that was significant to take from the Teva, Hashem saved Nania from the flood, so he can save Klal Yisrael from the Kodesh Kedoshim, which was 100 amas high. They took some of that wood and took it down to Bava. And it was obviously in the royal palace, it was obviously hanging around, so Haman had access to it. There's another Chazal, it came from there. Anyway, but the significance of 50, the Al Shech HaKadosh says it's Alpi Kishuf, that is 50 levels of Kedusha, 50 levels of Tumah. And so therefore they said, they knew Haman was playing around with Kishuf, so he said, get a piece of wood where it's completely full, completely full of Tumah, and get rid of Mordechai of that. You'll be masliach with Mordechai with this shtick, Tumah, or Kishuf, whatever it was. Ubaboiker, in the morning, Amoled HaMelech, go and speak to the king. The Yisrael Mordechai will hang Mordechai on it, and then you solved your problems. You'll go to the party happy. And he thought, what a good idea. He made it. They said to him, let somebody else make it. He went and made it. Chazal even say, he stood next to it and said, oh, this is a good piece of wood. This is going to do the job. And the Basco came out and said, Haman, yeah, you'll see what a good job it does. Right? You'll see. Now, some of the Mepharshim say the significance of 50 amas were anyone in Shushan could see it. It was without him realizing it. It was another step to signing his own downfall, building it so high. He thought he would enjoy the sight, but the ability to see it anywhere in Shushan was really, he was signing his own death warrant by such a thing. So the king goes to sleep that night, and now it worked. He starts tossing and turning. What is going on? Esther inviting Haman twice. Once he could understand, he's a senior minister. But twice, now his suspicion is aroused. Now the question is, what made Ahasuerus all of a sudden think, because Al Gemara says it, he thought, look, if there is an assassination attempt, why is there no intelligence from the Secret Service? So he said, it could be, maybe somebody once came before with intelligence and never rewarded him. Maybe that's why no one's coming forward this time. So he went to have a look, maybe that was the thing. It's a strange thing to think like that. Nothing untoward was going on really. Why would he think that's the reason why no one's coming forward? But the Medrash, in the Targum and the Midrashim, it said the Malachim came down. When you actually have a dream, sometimes it can be the good guys in Shemayim, good Malachim, and it can be the other Chevra. It says the Malach Michal came down and started putting this idea in Ahasuerus' head. And they also put the idea in his head that Haman's coming to kill him. So when he heard the noise in the Chotzer, he heard the noise downstairs, and he asked who's there, and he said it's Haman. It confirmed this dream he'd had that Haman's really after him. And it's quite amazing. You see, Haman really had no intention at all of killing the king. No, Chazal don't mention it anywhere. Yeah, and just like he slandered the Yidden wrongly, they were totally innocent, and all the things he said. So he met his fate in exactly the same way as he done to the Yidden. It was all midah k'neged midah. He got accused of something which he never even thought about. The same way as he said things about Klal Yisrael which were completely false, completely fabricated. He met his end in exactly the same way. So, just a few more psukim. V'layla nod l'shas hamelech. V'yoyim l'havi yiseva zichronis divrei hayomim. V'yiyu nikroim lifnei hamelech. Now, Chazal points out the word nikroim means they were read out. So Chazal tell us again. The Malachim were busy. Because there's a lot of Malachim here to sort this one out for Klal Yisrael. It says Haman's secretary, Ahasuerus' secretary, was one of Haman's sons. So there's no way he was going to read out what Mordecai did. No way. So he ignored it. He was flipping through the pages and he saw it and he ignored it. So a voice came out of the book. It was read out. A voice came out, so he couldn't ignore it. So what did he try and do? It says in the next word, Vayimotze, they found Kosov, it was written. Now it should say Vayimotzu or Vayimtzu, they found Ksav, an inscription. So Chazal say, Haman's son took a rubber or Tipex, tried to Tipex it out. And he turned over the page, but it turned up on the next page. So they found it written again. Right? So he's trying to, he can't get away with it. And Ahasuerus saw it and knew what's going on. Or he turned over the page, he must have noticed something. Eventually they had to come out with it. So what was it? Asher Higson Mordechai, listen to this, it's brilliant. Al Bigsona Voseresh. Who's Bigsona?
Big son.
It's Big Son. So why is he called Bigsona?
Yeah, big son.
What's Bigsona? So they bring an amazing thing. Years earlier, when they wrote it down, probably also one of Haman's sons, he wanted to play down what Mordecai had done. So what he did was like this. He wrote, Mordecai overheard this plot from Big Son, Oy Seresh. One of them was planning to kill the king. Either that one or that one. But Mordecai had both of them executed, so Mordecai had an innocent man killed. It was one of them, and he told it over, but one of them was really an innocent man. So they played it down, what Mordecai had done. So it was actually written down, Big Son, Oy, Seresh. When the Malach wrote it back in the book, he pushed the Aleph onto Big Son, and the Vav onto Seresh, so it became Big Son, and Seresh. Both were guilty.
Why is the Malach going to take off the oil?
Good guys, but that's what they want to say. That's what they want to suggest. Yeah, that's the Malach. Yeah. Okay. So Shnei Sarisam and Shomi Asaf, and here again, Shomi Asaf, the Rekech brings, was Shomi Asayef. They had the keys to the royal armory. So So they didn't have to smuggle weapons in. They just had access to weapons and tried to assassinate him with weapons they had access to. Okay. So someone said to me last night, 5 times in the Megillah it says the word Yikar.
Expensive.
He tries to show off the party as Yikar Tiferes Gedula also. And then he keeps on mentioning Yikar. And then later on, like Yehudim Hosa over Simcha, the source of Yikar. And here you got his own. Manasi Yikar, what honor was done? So it's very interesting. The Yikar, in mention with the Goyim, is all about power of kings and parties and honor to things. What's the Yikar of Klal Yisrael? Like, Chazal say, Elu Tefillin. It's our Tefillin. We don't care about people. We all we care about is doing Kodesh Baruch Hu's mitzvah properly and showing everybody we're Avdei Hashem. So our Yikar is a mitzvah done in public. It's the Shalosh, Tefillin Shalosh. Tefillin Shalosh. But it's quite incredible. The word Yikar occurs 5 times in the Megillah in different contexts, even in the Jewish context, in the Sas of Yikar. Now, Vayomer Nania Amelech Mishar Asaf, Lo Nase Imay Dava. Lo Nase Imay Dava. So literally, it means nothing was done to him. Zalman Sarasi says, it's a Purim Torah. He said, a Yid in Golos just wants to go and stop shepherding. Just leave me alone. Just leave us alone. And we're happy in Golos. So they were actually saying, do you know what favour we did to Mordechai? We just left him alone. We didn't shepherd him. Yeah, all Yid in Golos get Taurus from the Goyim. He said, no, what Mordechai's reward was that we didn't start with him. It's not a Poshim Shat, but he brings it as like a Purim thing. That's what Yid wants in Golos. Leave me alone. Let me earn a panasa. Let me get on with, leave us alone. We're happy with that. But nothing was done. Now this was incredible Hashgacha process. Malbim says it earlier. He said this entry was written in the presence of the king. He was a king who always said thank you. He always showed his gratitude. Does anyone know the story of Donald Trump and the mortgage?
No.
There was a year about 10, 15 years ago, driving along the highway somewhere in New York State, where it was, and he saw a guy broken down. I don't know whether he was a member of Chaverim or not, I don't know. Could have been. I don't know. He saw, so he stopped in case it was a Yid, but he could repair a tyre. So he took the guy's spare wheel, jacked it up and put it on. And the guy said, thank you very much. And the guy just asked him for his name. A week later, he gets a call from the bank. Your mortgage has been paid off. And there's a letter here, a note for you. So he went to the bank, and it was, dear Mr. So-and-so, thank you very much for helping me on the road. Best wishes, Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump.
No, yeah. Right? Very, very interesting. It's quite amazing. Right? So number one, you never know. You never know where the shul will come from. Yeah, you do a chesed with anybody. But quite incredible. So Achashverosh, Chazal say he had 4 good attributes, and one of them was he always took advice, and one was he always was makitoif. He always gave you a thank you for a service to the king. And here he's just had his life saved. He was that far away from being assassinated. The relief and the outpouring of gratitude should have been massive. And Kodesh Baruch Hu was Masaviv that he didn't do anything then. And Mordechai didn't need it then. He needed it years later. So the Baruch will make things, strange things happen which shouldn't have happened then. Right? It's a big yisoid. Shlomo Melech says it. It's a big chiddush. He says, "La kol zman ve'eis." Everything's got a time. He says, "Ace for this, ace for that, ace for that." So what's Shlomo Melech telling us? The human being is impatient. We want everything either yesterday or tomorrow. If we wanted it tomorrow, we'd ask for it tomorrow. That's how human beings want it. What we want in life, we want it immediately. Shlomo Melech tells us, "La kol zman ve'eis." Everything's got a timing. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu knows when you need it the most. When you need it the most, that's when you'll get it, because that's the biggest benefit. It's very interesting. I saw in the Shomer Emunim. I keep the Shomer Emunim, Hashgacha Pratis. I keep it next to my bed. I read it regularly. It's unbelievable safer. Just that one. That's the one I appreciate the most. And he says there, I think it was there, or one of his other svarim, he says there, it's actually from the Kedushas Levi. He said, when you daven for something, you got to be very careful. Because you're asking a Kodesh Baruch Hu, who said a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants? That's what he wants. Now, without Urim Tumim, without Novi, exactly, we don't know what he wants. Some things we do. We know he wants us to give stocker, so we know that. That's what's Hashem. Yeah, but things in your life, you say, Rebbe Shalom, please give me this, please give me that. But who said a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants this? So he said you shouldn't daven specifically. Give me this, give me that, because it could be the worst thing for you. And sometimes, because you daven for it, Kodesh Baruch Hu will let you have it. So he said you should either make a Tanai abortion. If it's good for me to have it, please give it to me. Right? Because then you're covered, yeah? Because if it's not good for you, you ask, you're saying, Hashem, please don't give it to me. Right? So very often, you scratch your head and you're wondering, why this, why that? Because Baruch said, look, leave it to me. The time's not right, and when you really, really need it, right? Everyone's got stories. Everyone has stories like this. When you really, really need it, when you're on the ropes and there's no other way to, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent it to you, and now you're happy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu held it back for a better occasion. So, out of the blue, Vayom HaMelech mi bechotza. I haven't seen any of the Mepharshim say anything. He must have heard a door close or something. Because why in the middle of the night would anybody be knocking around the chotza?
Because he was whistling, he was having a good time.
Haman walked in,
I was that excited.
fiving away. He was.
That's what the tape says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leibel Weinstock, whatever.
Yeah, the one's a very good one. Yeah. It could be. Could be.
It's probably a Medrash.
Medrash Weinstock.
Almond children. Malachim in
Peter draait
No, but why in the middle of the night would anybody have been in the chotza? No one's there.
the Medrash.
You go to Buckingham Palace at night. There's no one knocking about. No one in the courtyard there. Quadrangle.
It says that almond children play in the garden. They make a noise.
What, in the middle of the night?
Yes. This is the Medrash says.
Yeah. But why are you asking me about chotza? They were in the chotza making a noise.
Yeah.
They make a
okay, very
noise
good.
in the chotzer. Almond sound Melochim in almond sound.
See, so they disturb your sleep.
Go out to see almond.
All right, very good. Okay, well, what is it? There's about 8 midrashim on the Megillah Esther, you know that?
You giving the shit?
Yeah.
You giving the shit?
It's good, why not? Why not? Okay, so v'hama bo lachatz beis hamelech achitzon aleim al hamelech lislo says Mordechai le'isa shehechin lo. So, and the Haman had just walked in then to ask Rishus from the king. So vayomer nari hamelech elav hine Haman omed b'chotze vayomer hamelech yavoy. The king says, let him come in. Because he just had a dream that Haman was after him. So now, it's all coming together now. Yeah, it's suspicious that you're getting it right. So, the way the Balkori lanes it's a long note, and it's very good Bali Kriya know how to stretch it out. Haman, right? Because this was it. This was the last time he came in, more or less. Yeah? He really got it. So, the king now tests him out. What should be done to the king, the man the king wants to honour? Again, the word yikar. So now, Haman thinks to himself, so the Gemara says, this is again is another proof, Mordechai and the Anshe Nesek Doila wrote this Beruach HaKodesh. Because how would they know what Haman was thinking? So the Gemara says, it's not watertight.
It's pretty obvious.
Because it's pretty obvious what he would have been thinking. You see from his response, that was going through his mind, yeah. So the Gemara says, when you get a pasuk which conclusively proves it, it means that it was all Baruch HaKodesh. But on its own, that pasuk's not strong enough. So Vayom Haman al HaMelech, and you see Haman takes a deep breath. Ish Hashem Melech Chovis Bikore. And now Haman now again puts his foot in it. Yaviu levush malchus Hashem levush b'Hamelech, bring the royal clothes, the king wore. V'sus Hashem rachav alav HaMelech, and the Rolls Royce, yeah, which he rode in. V'Hashem nitin kesem malchus b'roshay. Now, some say this crown wasn't the crown the king wore. The crown was put on the royal horse, had a crown as well. On the day of the coronation, they put a special crown on the horse, which the king was riding. Chazal say Achashverosh now was convinced, this guy is after my job. And he starts looking at Haman, he stares him in the face. So Haman realised what he just said, and he backs off a bit. V'nasin halavush v'asos, give the clothes and the horse, he doesn't mention the crown anymore. He realised he pushed it too far. I had ish misari hamelech aparsimim, v'ilbishur ish to dress him up, asher hamelech chavis bikara, v'hikivu alasus, b'chai v'eh, taking through the town square, v'kara lefonav kacha yasel ish asher hamelech chavis bikara. This should be done to the... Now it's amazing to think this. Is that the greatest reward you can get?
No. Wow.
Is that the greatest reward you can get?
Yeah.
These people want covered.
With covered, yeah. See, for covered chappers, this is it. That's the seems to be that's the most you can get. Yeah, it's a very strange thing, to take around town. Oh, Kari is such a special man.
Doesn't the enemy get that?
Right? What?
Doesn't the enemy get that?
Who? Well, he might. I don't know, but
Yosef.
we put him became a Mishnah, and they call him Avrek wherever he went. They call him Avrek. Oh, very good. So maybe that was the standard.
He actually became.
I mean, he got a real job. He didn't. It was just read.
אומן היה ממשיך לעשות את זה אם המלך לא היה משנה את הפנים.
Right. So now, so vayem hamelech leHaman. He says, "Mahe kachas elavush v'sasus kasher dibarta." Take the clothes and the horse like you said. Va'asike. Now, very interesting what he said. The Mordechai HaYehudi HaYoshim B'Shah HaMelech. Al tapel dov mikol asher dibarta. Don't miss out anything which you said. So Chazal say this is how the conversation went. He said, "Va'asike leMordechai." So Haman got a shock. He said, "Where's Mordechai?" He said, "HaYehudi, the Jewish one." So he said, "Well, there's loads of the Jewish Motis, right? There's loads of the Jewish Mordechai, yeah." So he said, "HaYoshim B'Shah HaMelech."
There's only one.
Right? So Haman said, "Oh, had I known you meant him, I would have said, give him a town to get the ground rent from it, or give him a river where the river crossing would be a toll bridge. Give him some financial reward. I would never have suggested this for Mordechai." So Achashverosh said, "Give him that as well. I'll tapel dov mikol asher dibarta." Everything you suggested, give him that as well. Now, there's a lot of Torah Shabbat Peh between this pasuk and the next pasuk. So Chazal say, Mordechai was sitting with thousands of kids who were fasting, and he was actually giving a shir. It was the 16th of Nisan. He was giving a shir on the Omer. That was the day they brought the Omer in the base of Mikdash. So he was giving shir. So Haman came, and with the horse and the clothes, and he was very respectful. So when Mordechai saw him in the distance, he told them, "Run away." He said, "He's come to get me." But they didn't leave. They wouldn't leave Mordechai on his own. So Mordechai started davening. Stopped the shir. Anyway, so Haman sat there, very interesting, very respectfully. He asked, "What are you learning?" So they told him, "We had a base of Mikdash. We brought the Omer today, the first mincha in the base of Mikdash from Sa'im." And Haman said, "You should know, your little handful of flour was more powerful than everything I've done. It's all gone to pot. Everything I tried to do has gone, and your little learning about the Omer, not even bringing it, is more powerful than everything I've done." So anyway, he finished davening. So Haman said to Mordechai, "Put the clothes on, come on the horse, I've got a job to do for you." So very interesting. So Mordechai said to him, "I've not had a shower for 3 days, and I look a scruff. It wouldn't be right to wear the big Malchus looking a scruff." Very interesting. So Esther had closed all the bathhouses and all the barbers. So poor Haman had to take Mordechai himself to the bathhouse, see to him, give him a shower, and then he gave him a beard trimmer, he gave him a haircut. So as he was doing it, the Gemara said Haman gave a krecht. So Mordechai said, "What are you krechting about?" So he said, "I was the most important minister in this empire, and I've been reduced to a barber and a bathhouse attendant." So Mordechai said to him, "You," well, I don't know what word he used. Yeah, he said, "You were a barber for 22 years in the village you came from." Now this is very, very interesting, this Chazal. I've often thought about this. Haman came from nowhere, was a nothing and a nobody.
So with Achashverosh.
Achashverosh already, he was a son of Koresh already. Okay, but at least he was in the military. At least he was in the military somewhere. Oh, exactly the same thing. Hitler was a nobody, a farmer's boy, uneducated, came from nowhere, painted a few things on the streets of Vienna, and he read all the thing. He reached the same power. I've never thought about it. Incredible parallel. And they met end from 1 second to the next, well, not quite with Hitler, but yeah, came tumbling down, all the way down. Nothing left of whatever they had in their lifetime, nothing was left. Quite incredible parallel. So, Chazal said, when Haman's back, he gave him a good old kick up his backside. Got to back up the kick side, yeah? So, he said to him, very interesting, all of a sudden, to get very righteous. Doesn't it say in your Torah, "Bin foil overcha al tismach," when your enemies fall, don't gloat? So he said, "No, that's a Yiddish enemy. A new lot, it says, we'll trample all over you." He said, "Don't worry." And then they go through, then he takes him through the town. Now, this is very interesting. So, he puts on Mordechai, and he said, as he had to do, The next pasuk, Chazal say, as they went down the street where Haman lived, Haman's daughter was on the roof, and she assumed Mordechai was leading it and Haman was on the horse. So she took the chamber pot and turfed it on Haman. He looked up, and she saw it was her father, and she jumped off the roof and committed suicide. So the next pasuk now makes sense. After they finished this procession, Mordechai goes back to the gate. The Haman went back home. Ovel in mourning, his daughter just died. The Chafui Roy, she had all this lot on his head. Right? He had it on his head. Now, this is very interesting. They were hung after the war. So remember the 10 sons of Haman. The night before they were hung, one of them committed suicide. Goering committed suicide. Goering was a transvestite. He used to dress up in women's clothes. So he probably stumbled the Gilgal, Haman's daughter, committed suicide. Stumbled that chat. And the other 10 were hung, because they were the 10 who were hung, which Esther was Mavakish, that they should be hung. And there's a remnant for Mocha, in the future, they should be hung again. Quite incredible. The parallels are scary. Now, just finish off with the Chasm Sofer. That with Toshin Zayin, of course, it was before the Chasm Sofer's time. But he points out there's a big Tof and a big Ches in the Megillah as well. Chor v'Karpas, the Ches of Chor is a very big Ches. And at the end of the Megillah, there's a big Tof as well. Yeah, and the Chasam Sofer says it's a remnant of Gezeres Tachvatat. And he says the Yidden killed then were Yidden from the time the Kiyum HaGezer of Haman was in Tachvatat. In 1648, the Chmielnicki massacres. So we can say now with hindsight, especially with Haman, whose Hitler's speeches were exactly word for word like Haman's, it could well be that was Mamash the Kiyum HaGezer. But those 6 million Yidden. Sorry? Tovshin Zayin. Yeah, that's the second remnants. Yeah, but the Chasam Sofer, that was you wouldn't have pointed that out. It's very, very possible that all the Yidden killed in the war were Gilgulim of all the Yidden Mehoidevad Kush. Only there we had Mordechai and Esther's chus to save us, but the Gezer wasn't actually taken away; it was suspended. And when it came a time again where Yidden were assimilating and Yidden were doing like they did in the time of the Purim story, the Gezer kicked in, and this time we didn't have the Tzaddikim to save us. So it's quite incredible. You go on, the parallels are just incredible. Anyway, so just to finish off, it says Vayisabah Haman Lazeresh Ishto again. Ishto 3 times. His wife and his friend. And this is Amoled, classic Amoled. Es Kol Asher Koro. Had a bad day today. Just happened. Mikra. That's Amoled. Everything. No divine plan. It just happened. But now it changes their title. They could see, because they were objective, not subjective. They were negay like he was to get rid of Mordechai, quite like he was. They said to him, back off. In Mizerah Yehudim Mordechai, now they knew he was Jewish. It means if he's from Shevet Yehuda, or Binyamin, or Ephraim or Manasseh, any of those 4 tribes, Asher Hachiloi Salim Polevonov, you started falling, Loi Suchaloi, there's no way you're going to win. Kinofel Tipolevonov. They told him, Klal Yisrael works like this. They're either above nature or below nature. There's nothing in between. And you can see which way they're heading. If they're falling, they're going to go all the way down. If they're going on the up, they're going to go all the way up. And you can see clearly, Haman, you're falling and he's on his way up. Back off. He wouldn't do it. No, he said, no. Amalek they will never give in. And that's why it's Timcha Zech Amalek. There's no hope for them. There's no hope for them. And then one more nace happens to really, really put the final nail in Haman's coffin. What's he got all over his clothes, Ellie? Muck. So he's not had time to change yet. The carriages arrived to bring him to the second party. He didn't have time to have a shower and clean himself. So you can imagine how he walked into that banquet. Achashverosh was not a happy man. Right? So he said, before he had a chance to do anything, the Sarisi HaMelech Hagiu Vayavhilu, they hurried him up. Come on, quick! Lahaviyas Haman El Amishta Sha'asa Esther. Rashi brings it here. The Gemara brings it. Rashi says on the Gemara, he says that was part of the miracle. He came in smelling very unpleasant to make sure. When Achashverosh got angry with him, he got really, really angry. Now, I'll tell you something very interesting about Malchus. Do you know the Queen owns a certain racecourse? Which racecourse does she own? I thought you know, Ascot. Now, Royal Ascot is like for the Englishes. This is the thing to be. Yeah, it's like the Spitz Englishes. Right, the Queen comes and she puts a bet on her horses, on her races. Royal Ascot. The rule in Ascot is you have to dress very, very smartly because it's a royal thing. And one year the Queen was there, and the BBC, the cameraman, was dressed casually, and the Queen sent him home. She said, "Young man, go home and get dressed properly, and then come back." When you stand in front of Malchus, you've got to be dressed like Malchus. So you can imagine then Haman came in, what a design it was for the king to come with filthy, dirty clothes. That was it. Haman didn't stand a chance. Okay, Rabbi, so we'll carry on tomorrow.
יש בוט שאומר, שההומולוג שלוקח